Hey, welcome to the For the Masses podcast. My name is John Baird, your host. I'm back again with a Saturday banger. I'm super excited for this young lady I have on the podcast today. But before I get into that, let's do what we have to do because we have admin tasks, right? So please follow us on all platforms at For the Masses podcast. That's IG and that's Facebook. The YouTube is up. I'm streaming live. We're doing it. So I see the views, but let's get the subscribers up, okay? Next, please remember to Anchor supporters are up. So if you want to support the podcast monetarily, please do so. Okay. Please go on to Spotify and Apple and leave a review and subscribe. Okay. It'll help us a lot. And I appreciate you all. So today I have Shelby Armstrong. She's a acrobatics and tumbling coach, and she started 3 different programs. And I'm super excited she made time out to get on this call. So let's jump straight into it for the Masters podcast. Shelby, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal, especially that we're doing this podcast. I'm super excited you took the time out.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited.
It means the world to me. So, Shelby, you're an acrobatics and tumbling coach, a really tough sport. I put it up there with wrestling. I'm gonna tell you that. Well, gymnastics, acrobatics, tumbling, and wrestling. Okay,
Yeah.
I put it up there with like one of those sports. Okay, so I don't know if that's an
That would,
honor to you.
that would make the hearts of like the creators of acrobatics and tumbling very happy. Also, my brother was a wrestler growing up, and my dad was a wrestling coach. So like I've been to my fair share of wrestling tournaments like my whole life. So I would put it up there too. Yeah.
I knew it. Because
Yeah.
it was something different about how you moved, how you operated with your team that kind of resonated with us, and you was just like, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. So me and you met at Davidson Elkins College, where I was an assistant wrestling coach, and you were the head acrobatics and tumbling coach.
Right.
So did you get started in when you were young doing acrobatics tumbling, or were you a gymnast? How did you get started?
Yeah,
Cheerleading?
so I actually did competitive cheerleading. So I don't know if you
Yeah.
know kind of the differences. Most people do now, but it's not like sideline cheer. It's like
Yeah.
it's completely separate, kind of like a club sport.
Yep.
So I did that all through high school in Texas, where I'm from, and then I was recruited to go to either Baylor or Oregon, pretty much for acrobatics and tumbling. And I chose Oregon just because I wanted to get like for some reason as far away from Texas as possible. And all my friends are going to Baylor, and I kind of want to do my own thing. So I went to Oregon, fell in love with the facilities, all that stuff, of course. And the coaching staff was just incredible. So I went to Oregon for acrobatics and tumbling. So this was probably only year 2 or 3 into the sport. So it was still pretty new. We only had 6 schools at the time when I went to college. So we were in Oregon when we competed. We like traveled all the way to the East Coast to like West Virginia, Connecticut, down to LA. Like we had like no schools that had it. So we had to fly everywhere. Now it's a little bit different. I think we just actually added our 40th institution. So that was in 2012. We had 6, and now we're in 2022 and we have 40 schools. So it's grown pretty quickly. But yeah, so that's what I did in college, and I graduated in 16. I moved back to Texas. I moved to Austin. I started like a club acrobatics and tumbling program. Okay. And then a couple months into that, some schools in West Virginia were adding acrobatics tumbling, and I was like, I don't know where that is on the map. I will fly there though. And so I went to Davidson Elkins College. So actually, I think you said I had started 3 programs. It's only 2, but it's just a lot of years in doing it. So it feels like 3 for sure. I flew out to West Virginia, and they're like, we're adding the sport. Do you want to basically build a program here? And I was like, sure. I don't even know where I am. This town is like really small. I lived in Austin for a year, so it was a huge culture shock. But I moved out, and I was there for about 3.5 years, and then moved out here to North Carolina to build another program, which I said I was never going to do, but for some reason I keep doing it. So yeah, that's pretty much the story.
That's phenomenal because like building a program is not for the faint of heart.
No,
not at all.
And I got the opportunity when I was 22 years old, right? So I was like, I'm only 4 years older than the girls I'm trying to recruit. I don't even know how to send an email, honestly. Like, what do I do first? And what do you do first? And like all my coaches, my mentors were like, just send emails. Like, just call every gym you could possibly find in the entire world. Like, just call people and email and just like grab kids. So that's pretty much what I did for the like day one. That's what I was doing.
And that's phenomenal. And like, it speaks to like a lot to your maturity because like me, I was an assistant since I graduated. So when you started coaching, I was an assistant for like 4 years. And I think we met like 4 years later, but I was an assistant. And I was like, I'm not ready to be a head coach, And there, there was plenty of opportunities, but I was like, being a head coach is like a completely different ball games, and like, you're responsible. You're the parents while they're away from home, essentially.
It was tough. And I will say I had some girls whose parents were like, you're too young. Actually, if you remember Alexis Suego, she was on my team. she was one of the first girls that her dad, we still laugh about it all the time because now she's like one of my friends now, right? She has babies now and she's married and it's so awesome. But when I was recruiting her, her dad had sent me these long messages. It was like, I can't believe you're recruiting my daughter. It's so unprofessional. And just basically like I was too young, all these things, didn't trust her to come. And he was like, finally faced it, like she's going anyways, whatever. He ended up being like our biggest supporter and like my biggest fan of like acrobatics and tumbling. He was like, I'm so glad I let her go. And now I'm like really close to their family and stuff. So it's funny kind of how that worked out. I was like, I promise I'm not a child.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm in touch with her whole family still. So it's pretty cool.
That's phenomenal. That's a blessing. You know, like God has a reason for everything, you know, and like when I met you, I was like, yeah, she's mature, she's professional, and she like takes it serious, you know, because that's what you got to do at this level, you know, and so I'm super excited for you. But let's backtrack a little bit. So you started competitive cheer in high school, or when you were like younger?
Yeah, I was probably like 7, I think.
Oh, wow.
I was already doing tumbling and things like that, but I think I was 7 when my mom was finally like, all right, let's like go into a club. And it was at smaller gyms, so nothing crazy, kind of like wrestling. You have smaller gyms, you have bigger clubs. It was kind of like that, smaller gyms, and it just kept moving up as I got more talented and we, as my parents were able to pay for a little bit more. But I also played a few other sports. So like I played t-ball, obviously, like everybody kind of did that. I played softball, I think, till like 6th grade. So it was a little longer. I played volleyball in high school, my freshman, sophomore year. And then from there, it was kind of like, hey, you're not going to go to college for like volleyball or any of the other stuff. And track a little bit, which was kind of just like a hobby after seasons ended. So we basically just like stuck to competitive cheerleading, and it took up most of my time anyways. I mean, I was in the gym probably 5 days a week until 9 p.m. and we lived an hour away. So there wasn't really much room for other sports. And then my brother was out wrestling, right, till 9 p.m., an hour the opposite way. So that's pretty much where it started. And I knew going into college, like, first, it was just going to be cheerleading because that's all I kind of knew. So it's like, okay, I really want to go to Hawaii Pacific University for competitive cheerleading. Mainly, who doesn't want to live in Hawaii? But 2, they had a really good cheerleading program, and it was kind of what we talked about a lot growing up. And the gym I was in was like Hawaii Pacific, and we had all these like athletes who were going there, coaches who had competed there. And so I was like, okay, cool. But then I found out about acrobatics and tumbling, and I was like, okay, I don't want to wear a skirt, and I don't want to wear a bow.
Yeah.
I don't want to smile or dance anymore. I just want to tumble, and I just want to lift people or be thrown in the air and like just do skills, right?
Yeah.
And so acrobatics and tumbling was like the avenue for me to take perfectly. Like I was like, yes, I don't have to like get spray tans anymore. This is awesome.
That's phenomenal. So when did you like realize that? Like senior year, junior year?
I think it was my junior year. Yes.
Okay.
Kind of the middle of my junior year when I was talking with Baylor coaches, but I wasn't talking with like coaches at Oregon yet. And Baylor was just close. It's about an hour and a half from my house. So a bunch of my friends and teammates, we would like go down to Baylor and watch practices or go to their meets or stuff like that. And then I just got on Google one day and I was like, okay, are there other schools that have this sport? Like, is this just a Baylor? And then I was like, oh, University of Oregon is like number 1 in the country out of 6 schools. Okay. But like still, I want to be on the best program. Right. So I just like, I think I sent an email or filled out a recruiting form or something. And they called me like pretty soon after and were like, hey, you want to come to a recruiting trip in October? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So that's pretty much how it went down.
You know what's crazy? I was gonna ask you. I was gonna say, hey, so how did they find out about you? You know, because if there's 6 schools like all around the country, you know, I know it's probably like a community of like the competitive girls. But like, so I did the same thing. I made a highlight tape, spanning out all the coaches, and then some hit me back. You know.
Oh, that's what I did. I had a coach at the time, Jay. He helped me. He was like, "Let's make you this recruiting video." And it wasn't even actually a recruiting video. It was just like, let's make a cool video of all your tumbling. And so I would go in like after practice or before practices every week and send him all these videos, and he would help me make kind of like on iMovie too, right? So it was like, yes. Just got my first MacBook at the time. I was like, I'm gonna make iMovie, and I put some crazy music to it. I had bloopers at the end. All my friends who helped me, I like made a little dedication page to them at the end. Anyway, so I was like, wait, this is perfect. So I sent them an email and connected that link, and sometimes that video pops up on my Facebook, like on my memories or like my time hop, and I'm like, that is so funny. Like,
you got that video on YouTube?
I chose, like, it's amazing, but it worked. So
is that video on YouTube?
It actually is, yeah. My YouTube channel name is like Shelby Belby with like a lot of B's and Y's.
Yes. I'm
very like 8th grade, like, but I do actually have a lot of YouTube videos on there, but from like middle school, high school tumbling. So none of it now. So when you see it, you're gonna be like, wow, she looks like 12. I was 12. I was
12. That's phenomenal. But it's like a good point though. Like, and like I know me and you can attest to this, that like coaches aren't gonna know about you, you know. So like, I mean, unless you're like like the bee's knees, but like there's a lot of talented kids that coaches aren't going to know about. So like you got to like, make the effort to like get to
Yeah.
know coaches, and you can send one video and then the coach loves you, so
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's super, super important, but that's so cool. So
Yeah.
you chose your path, acrobatics, tumbling, got on the internet, was like, hey, what other sports like schools have this? Let me fill out this questionnaire. Kids don't think it'll work, but we get all of them. We get all
Right.
the questionnaires to our email, right?
Yeah.
And that's phenomenal. So you went to Oregon, and how was your experience at Oregon?
I loved it. I mean, I was far from home and I was scary at first, but
Yeah.
I encourage, like when I'm recruiting and I have girls who are coming far. I mean, my roster, I don't know if you probably haven't looked at it, but our roster, I have 2 girls from North Carolina. One girl from South Carolina, everyone else out of state, all the way through like to Spain, right? So I have California, Texas, everybody. And the best thing I could have possibly done out of high school is, and I was pretty independent anyways. I mean, my parents were kind of like you cook your own dinner if you don't want to eat reading. We wanted to do our own laundry in 6th grade, so it's like, it wasn't like I was like in this like helicopter kind of family situation. The best thing I did was go away to college, and like you grow so much so quickly. And it's like when you have a bad day, like you can call your mom, but like you can't just go home for dinner, right? Like you can't. If I would have stayed in Texas, it would have been pretty close. So it would have been kind of like on weekends I can drive home if I feel like it, if we don't have practice, things like that. So, and then making 35 friends and teammates, right, that are also from all around the country, was really exciting. And like my best, closest friends are my teammates, and they live all over the country, and they get married and they have babies and they go to the wedding and all those things. And it's like, I don't know that I would have had the same experience had I stayed with the same 4 or 5 friends I had grown through cheerleading with, gone and stayed in Texas, right? And I think I learned so much about myself, and I grew up pretty quickly. Like my junior year, I had to start working, and I had like 2 jobs on the top of being a student athlete, right? So it was like, if I was still in Texas, I probably wouldn't have done those things. And made those connections with people, right? And then Oregon's just a cool school, right? The facilities, like, just, that's it. That's all you really have to say. Like, if you want to talk experience, like, well, did you see the weight room I got to lift in every day? And just like, top tier, like, administration and trainers and everything that we had there, just the facilities and the access to all of the things that they do to set you up well as a student athlete, whether that's tutoring, if that's in like so many professional opportunities, internship opportunities, just things that they like create to be able to put on your resume, was really exciting. Just kind of sets you up to be ready to do all of these things once you graduate. So I'm so grateful and thankful for my experience. The large class sizes is definitely a lot different, right? Like, so right? Like very small class sizes are now here. So I will say, again, I love my experience, but I did not know my professors' names, and I can't tell you one professor's name that I remember. And they probably did not know mine. So I think that's the difference in like the academics and stuff. If I could go back, like I would maybe have rather had smaller class sizes. I probably would have worked harder as a student and not just an athlete. But again, like Oregon's amazing, and my teammates, my coaches were phenomenal. So.
No, that's amazing. And you got your undergraduate degree in like social science, or?
Yeah, I got it in applied business, economics, and political science, actually. So yeah, and then I got my master's a couple years after that. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. I never met someone who got what I got too. So you graduated in 2016, same year I did, and you was like, I want to continue to coaching. You want to start coaching? Is that what your thought process was? Or
no, actually, I was gonna go into sales. Like all my friends were going into sales. They were gonna do like Gallo, or they're gonna do medical device sales, like Gallo Winery stuff. Medical device sales, staffing company, right? Recruiting, things like that. And I was like, well, that's what everybody's doing, and they want to hire athletes. And those people were at our schools all the time, at our like job fairs, trying to get athletes to want to do these things because you are competitive, right? So you want to like do those things. And I was like, okay. And so I went through the interview processes with a lot of it, and a lot of it I got pretty far through, but like towards like the final interviews, they were kind of like, you don't seem like you really want to do this. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to get a paycheck. Like, it'd be cool. Like, let's start there. But I don't know. I didn't know for sure. And there was some assistant coaching opportunities available at the time. I'd have to move to like South Carolina or like Pennsylvania. I think Gannon had an opportunity at the time when Siobhan was still the coach. And my mom was like, come home, like come to Texas, like come get a job in Texas. Like you can do anything, come to get a job in Texas. So this family, actually, I cheered with her daughters and her son, and they opened a gym in Texas. It was like a huge power tumbling gym called Tumble Tech, and they had like trampoline and just like tumbling. It's kind of a different sport, but we recruit some of those athletes too. And they were like, we want a club acrobatics and tumbling team, and we want you to be the director of it. And they were like, what's it going to take for you to do that? And this was at nationals, right? And I was in Texas, and they came to Texas. Like everybody that worked at the gym was opening it, and the whole family came to Baylor to watch our national championship meet and like watch me and like talk to me and stuff. And we knew the family, so it wasn't like bizarre or anything. And they were like, okay, here's what we're going to pay you. You're getting all this. And it was basically like what I want, like what you would want coming out of college, right? So I moved to Texas, and my mom was like, yes. And I was in Austin, so it was about 3 hours from home. And I started the club team, and it was fun. It was hard. It was really hard, mainly because it was teaching kids sport that isn't gymnastics and not cheerleading, and they're just kind of like, I just want to flip, so I felt overqualified a lot, and like I had so much more to teach somebody who had more, I guess, desire to learn the sport
100%
at a more competitive level. So I kind of ran into that, and I think I got just like a little burnout. And again, that gym is amazing, and they I don't think they have the club team anymore, but they have amazing trampoline and tumblers and all this stuff. And I'm still like on good terms with the family and everything, but it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to be part-time, and I'm going to let you know I'm interviewing for these collegiate coaching jobs, because that's what I ultimately wanted to do. I just didn't think at 22 I'd be able to do it. So I moved to part-time, and then we're just doing tumbling classes and acro classes, and then interviewed for the position, and I got it. So when I got the job at Davidson Elkins College, it was in December of 2016. So I was like fresh out of college, but I didn't move there. I wasn't able to move there till June or July. Okay. So I was remote working, right? Trying to build a program from Texas, and like just having to fly up once a month with recruits or meet recruits, have huge visits, and at the same time trying to pay my bills in Austin, working part-time coaching gymnastics and stuff. So it was really tough in having to do both. And then like one spot was going to struggle because like I still had to work at this other job. So not moving there was really, really tough. And it really hurt me recruiting wise when I finally moved there. It was really hard for me to get my numbers the first year because I wasn't there. So I didn't know anything about the school. I wasn't like living in the school, right? And like walking around the campus and having an office and stuff. So once I got there, it was easy. It was fine. But that first like half a year was tough. Very tough.
Yeah. No, I can only imagine trying to recruit part-time or remote. Because again, you're the selling point of the program. Hey, we're starting this new program. Hey, this is our coach. And you're trying to get kids to see, hey, these are the opportunities you have here on campus. And you're able to do that all the time. So
and they're like, so what's the school like? And I'm like, there's classrooms.
But
and on top of not really knowing how to recruit yet, right? Like I was like, I have no idea what to do.
So you didn't know? Did you you had to learn about financial aid?
I was just like, here's your scholarship offer, and they're like, okay.
Oh man, I can only imagine.
Yeah,
but you figure it out, right? You end up getting your numbers up, so you end up going to D&E, right? And you're like your first year as a head coach, right? What was your mindset like? And then how did you just bring all these young ladies from different areas together?
Yeah, my mindset was kind of like, it doesn't matter if they're good or not. I need bodies on the floor. Yeah. So, and we have some really talented girls, and those girls ended up staying all the way through their senior year and graduated. And some of them are actually coaching right now. So it's super awesome when that happens. They love the sport, right? My mindset going in was like, I was a D1 athlete, and I'm gonna have a high caliber program, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and they're gonna do this, and I'm just having this vision, and it's gonna be awesome, and I'm gonna be really mean, like I'm gonna be like really mean, they're gonna be scared of me, and like it's gonna be great, and like they're gonna respect me so much. And because that's how it's coached, right? And that was kind of the culture of the program I was at Oregon, right? It was like no BS, so I get these girls in, and I'm like, oh, I forget I'm the only person who knows anything about this sport. Okay, so I'm going to teach all these girls everything I know. And then I'm going to also have really, really tight reins. And we're going to have these rules, and these are the rules I had in college. And these rules are going to just set the tone for this program, and we're going to be like, we're going to beat Oregon one day. So I had these rules laid out, and it was pretty much the same exact rules I had at Oregon, right? Which they were pretty tough. I mean, they were normal for collegiate athletes, but
what's an example?
I don't know. I mean, it was kind of normal stuff. So it was like social media. It was like
Wow.
Respect stuff, you know, normal things.
Okay. Okay.
But like no exceptions and like no exceptions. So when you're building a program, you have a team of freshmen and they're in college for the first time and you're a first time head coach. And for you to have rules with no exceptions, you better make sure you stand on that when a rule is broken. Like you better. So I'm thinking, because at Oregon, well, we just didn't break those rules because there was no exception to them. When you have low numbers, right, and you're expected to do a certain amount of things, and somebody breaks a rule that has no exception, it's like, oh, I didn't think you guys were actually going to break this, right? Like, I didn't think you guys were actually going to do the things I said you would get kicked off for doing. So I had to really learn how to basically meet them where they were at and raise the bar from there. And so I started off really mean and really strict, and kids were quitting, right?
Yeah.
Like now some kids were quitting that didn't really need to be there, that were going to hurt the culture, and they didn't care. And that's fine. But some girls were unhappy who I think had a lot of potential, but they like they were like just kind of blocked, right? Like almost like they had no like freedom to like, and it wasn't like that. I think it's just how they felt. And it's how I was like, well, this is how programs that win go do things. And so this is how I'm doing things. So that first year was really a lot about figure that out, trial and error there, and also learning about my own coaching philosophy. So the philosophy I was kind of carrying around was the one that I watched in my coaches throughout my life, and then my collegiate coaches, and then I was just like, well, it works, so it's mine now too. So I learned a lot. I learned a whole lot that first year with all of that. And I will say the girls that we had continued through the program to their senior year were the best possible, outcome. They are awesome. And they led that team, especially after I left, they led that team to stay together for that last semester. So.
That's awesome. And like, I really think it's about like, figuring it out in a time that, makes sense for you. So you got there, you have all these rules, and you're like, I got to make adjustments, and I got to make adjustments, and making adjustments doesn't make you weak. It makes you like your own coach. You're figuring your own yourself. So I'm happy for you. Because when I got there, I was just like, she seemed pretty strict about like, stuff, but like you ran your program like we would, hey, like all these workouts, this is time of workouts, and of course I had some of your athletes, worked for me and stuff. So like I would like talk to them.
Yeah. Becca worked for you, right? Did Becca work for you?
Love Becca.
So I will tell you this, and this is like a gift from the heavens or whatever you believe in, universe, whatever. Becca was my very first recruit at D&E, my very first signee. Wow. And she was just like, I love it here. And she shows up on campus from California, and she was like, I want to live in Elkins, West Virginia. And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't even live here yet. I don't know why you want to do that, but come on. So Becca was my first recruit, and she loved the program. She was so dedicated to it, and she helped me a lot. Like, I didn't have a staff, right? If I did have a staff member, Becca would like kind of almost fall into that. Like she would come to me and be like, okay, these are the issues that we're having. And like, I want you to know about them. And I'd be like, okay, let's talk. So Becca would actually help me a lot with things, not necessarily like getting people in trouble, but just like, I think that these decisions are going to hurt the culture of this program. I want you to help me figure out how to navigate. So Becca's awesome. And now she's coaching, which is really, really cool. Right. My very first signee at Mars Hill was Becca's little sister.
Oh, wow. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. Tori, and let me tell you, Tori is Becca. Like there's some differences a little bit. Tori's really, really funny. I mean, Becca's funny, but Tori is freaking hilarious. But so it's still in the family, right? So I'm still like in contact with their mom and everything. And I'm like, are you guys sure in 4 years you're not going to have another athlete you want to send my way? So I get to have like another little Becca for 4 years. And so I was really excited.
Man, that's phenomenal. And like, Becca she did the same for me, because I was transitioning too, but a super mature young lady, like
she had like 3 jobs, like
right.
And she didn't really like, it wasn't like she had to, like she had to make ends meet, right? Becca does not know how to not just move, right? Just keep going. And like and at one point she would come to my office and like cry and be like, I'm just so overwhelmed. And she was taking like 3 of the hardest classes, like calculus, physics, chemistry on one semester, working at the YMCA, working on campus. And then she was doing acro. She's doing all these things. And she was like, I just don't know how to slow down. And I'm like, Becky, you're 19 years old.
Yeah.
Like, let one of those go. Let one, and then that's just awesome. So like her as a coach, I bet like she took on someone else's program in Philippi, right, at AB. And improved in just the months that she was there. Like
Yeah.
she's not there long at all. And I think that program is really going to turn around and Beck's going to do it because she's not going to stop, right?
Yeah.
Like she's like, Becca's like, if she wants it and she's doing it, she's going to do it and she's going to be committed to it. So, and that's stuff I see in Tori too. And I'm like, yes, this
That's
is like
awesome.
an amazing family. And Tori's talked about wanting to coach too. So I'm like, that is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And like I love stuff like that because it's super helpful as like to us. Like when I came to D&E and Coach Bolin started the program, hey, like I just happened to be starting there too. I coached here 4 years. Can I help? And he's like, wow, and then he had another coach from in town that coached at Cornell. He's like, hey, and here, so I saw all you were doing, but you don't have a staff. So like, kudos to you, definitely.
Yeah.
So like your first year, you started to like, like have your own coaching philosophy, essentially. You started to like get through there. So how did you start building from there? Like,
I was thinking about this the other day. We have a team banquet coming up, and I was just thinking about all my girls and like this year with my team. And this is a new program, right? We had our numbers this year, which was good. We have a few upperclassmen. I have a girl, Brindley, who transferred with me from D&E. She was there for her first semester as a freshman and then came over here last semester. And then some other transfers and then just upperclassmen, but mostly freshmen, right? So we have 15 girls on the team, 13 are freshmen, 12 are freshmen. Yeah. Now I am such a different coach than I was at D&E. Like I'm such a different coach. And it's funny because when my coaches at Oregon and they left after my senior year, our sophomore year, they left and they went to Baylor and we were like, we hate them. How could they do that? We're a winning program. How could they leave? How could they go to Baylor, like our rival? And now and then they were beating the crap out of us, right? Because like the coaches at Oregon pretty much started the sport and then they went to Baylor and like, they were like, we're gonna turn this program around. So Baylor's now number one, but we were so mad, so frustrated. And I remember Fee said, I'll never forget that meeting. She said, she was a cheer coach at Kennesaw State, and she wanted to start acrobatics and tumbling, and those athletes loved her. She's an amazing coach, just a leader in general, and just a mentor. All those things in one person. That's Fee. You could look at Fee and be like, I want to write a book about her, or if she wrote a book, I would read it 10 times a day. So she was like, my athletes at Kennesaw hated me. They hated me until they understood what I was doing in the vision, until they pulled themselves out of it, right? So that's the same thing happened in Oregon. I hated her. And then I kind of realized once we were competing against her at Baylor, and I had friends who were on that team with her who were like so afraid of her because it was like the Oregon coaches are so mean, and would talk to me about her and talk to me about things, and I'd be like, that doesn't seem like Fee. That doesn't seem like Coach U, right? I was like, that's weird. They seem like different coaches. And I'm like, how could they do that? How could they become different coaches, right? How could they be more, how could it seem like they've changed their philosophy for this other team? And it's just, crazy things I would think about. So then now I understand, right? So I left D&E and I had girls, they, probably hate me. I had some girls who were like, I understand, whatever. I told my seniors first and everybody else, but my philosophy has changed so much from then, even from leaving that November in 2020 to now. And now I get it, like leaving, like I had to do it for myself. I was just ready to keep moving. And it's the best thing I ever did. I absolutely love Mars Hill. I love this team, and I'm such a different coach. And I think before anything, right? Before it was like work hard and show up to weights on time, show up to practice on time, like which are normal things you want to instill in athletes, right? And now you're leading young women and you're trying to help them grow. It comes down to like loving them, like just love them. And I started to do that kind of my last year at D&E when I realized like these girls have been with me for 3 years and they stuck through the thick of it. Like we were in the trenches our freshman year, right? We had girls quitting, we had all this stuff, right? And they stuck with it. Building relationships, but like loving them, right? And not just asking them about their day because you're supposed to, right? Like, how's your day? Okay, cool. I'm gonna keep walking, but because you want to. And I realized that if I love them, they will do anything. And so it came into now I'm in this spot where it's like, I don't even care what they do, right? Like we didn't want to meet this year. We had some pretty close ones. We had a lot of fun, and the girls, we upped our scores almost every single meet, and they're really happy with how the season went. Next year, they're going to be hard to beat. They're an amazing team. But I didn't even come in like to it like with expectations of like I expect these skills from Jossie, I expect these skills from Tori, right? It's like if I love them and they feel loved and they feel like this is a home, they will come to me with what they want to do, right? Like they will set the bar for themselves and for this program and for me, and I won't have to tell them what I expect unnecessarily from skill wise, right? Competition wise, rules and stuff different. And now it's just like, these girls, they're an amazing group. If I wasn't their coach, I would be their friend. Like I would be like, come over, and if they're all 21, right, come over and have a glass of wine with me. You know, like they're a really, really cool group, and they are so wholesome, and like maybe I'll call all their parents and be like, you guys raised amazing athletes. They have so much capacity for love, for each other, for the team, for me, like respect for me. Like they've taught me just as much about being a human being as I've taught them, I'm pretty sure. And those are never really deep connections and relationships that I built with every single one of my athletes at D&E. And I don't know if it was because I couldn't or didn't want to. It's just, I wasn't there yet. I didn't realize that that's how you have to do it. Like you got to love them. You got to hug them, and you got to let them cry all the time. And they could cry, you know, but I didn't really cry. I also kept up this persona like, oh, you're the coach. You have to be, they can't see you vulnerable, right? They can't see you failing. They can't see you struggling. And like, there were a few times this season where I stood in front of these girls and I was like, hey, this happened and this, and I'm sorry, or this, you know, or I made a mistake here, you know, and they were just like, okay, you know, cool. Like we love you. Right. And we still trust you and we still respect you. And we're still going to follow you. What time's practice tomorrow? You know, so that to be able to create that kind of relationship is so much more important to me than like any meet we're going to win or lose, right? Any skill that they're going to throw. But if you can build those relationships, you don't have to worry about it. You know, and at D&E, and we could have, there were some girls who were kind of like, whatever, but I was like, no, like they're not going to see me cry, right? They're not going to know anything about my personal life. But now I come in and I'm like, hey, I'll tell them stories of like, hey, this happened to me today. And like, I'm stressed out. I'm sorry, you know, or whatever. And then I want them to be able to come in and do that too. And that's not really something not that I said no to it, but I didn't encourage it. And now I encourage it. I'm like, hey, if you're having a bad day, tell us at the beginning of practice so that we can help you get through this practice, because you're probably going to be upset and it's probably going to be tough. The rest takes care of itself. If you can just do that and you can cultivate that and they feel loved and cared for, they're going to give you whatever you want. So
absolutely.
That's how I've changed.
Absolutely. No. And it's so surreal because, that's something I learned too. Like, you know, after like, probably like when I got to D&E, I was around Coach Bolin, and seeing how he was like building the program. And I was impressed from the jump. You know, I was impressed from, I was like, man, this guy, but he's seasoned, like experience, you know, he coached K-12, you know, and he just was ready to be like that kind of leader. So we're talking about the transition from him, from, you know, being in administration, you know, making a lot of money and like doing all these major things. And then, hey, moving your whole family to West Virginia from New Jersey. And he was like, hey guys, price of milk don't change, you know? And I was like, love this guy. Like, whoever you need, Coach Bolin.
Hilarious. I'm here to write that down, actually. I know.
Right? It's real. Price of milk don't change, boys. And, you know, and just preparing them for like that manhood, you know, more. And I think they appreciated that more, you know. And he got me from that point. I'm like, all right, this guy's great. You know, so it's so amazing to hear that from you. You know, so you end up going to Mars Hill, and basically you're able to bring that new coaching philosophy there, and like just like having the love, you know, to these young ladies that, you know, you think will help build the foundation for like an amazing program in the future.
Yes, they do. And just to like show you how cool these girls are, we were a few meets, we were low on numbers, as in we had to have 15 girls for the very last event, which is a team event. If you've seen the meets, so you probably understand that a little bit. We were too short from just injuries, and then a girl who had some just class issues out of high school, like just her high school didn't update core courses in NCAA for like forever. So just whatever. But so she wasn't able to compete. But she had the grades. It was just class stuff.
Yeah.
So we needed two athletes to be on our team, just stand on the mat for a team event. That's it. Like they stand for the whole meet, and then they just stand on the mat in the corner for team event because you're just 15 feet on the floor. And the volleyball team, we had two freshman volleyball girls who like offered to do it. And they came to every meet, and they just stood on the side the whole time and kind of got to know the girls a little bit. And then they stood there in team event, and we were so grateful because otherwise the girls wouldn't be able to do this team event, and we would automatically lose every meet by like 80 points. So, So they helped us out the whole season, which was awesome. Traveled with us too. Not a whole lot of meets, right? We have 7 or 8 meets a year, but they did help us out. So then the track coach calls me a few weeks ago, and he's like, hey, I hate to ask this, but we're low on, we have some injuries and low numbers, and he has track, you have to have like a certain amount of athletes competing in each event or in different events for any of your athletes to qualify for anything further. And he needed a couple girls to do a couple different things. And I was like, I don't think any of them have ran track, but I'll ask them. So I sent a message to the team, and you wouldn't believe like the conversations they were having. And I was like, hey, he's just interested. If you're interested, you need to hurry up and email him so we can get you certified. And it's the first meet's next weekend. So you have like a week to learn whatever event you are volunteering to learn. And none of them have ran track before, maybe ran like sprinted, right? But none of them have done events. So we're talking like high jump, javelin, shot put. Like we're talking
the skill stuff.
And my girls are so funny. They're like, when I tell you they're hilarious and amazing, they are. They were like, what's shot put? And one of them's like, I think it's where you throw a ball. And one of them's like, it's metal. And then they're like, Google says it's 8.8 pounds. And they're like, oh, it's lightweight. And they're like, I think you get to spin. Like, it's so funny. And one of my girls, Siri, she's a freshman. She has the highest vertical. We did testing in the fall, highest vertical of any female athlete in the school. And she's a freshman. And so I was like, high jump, Siri. And she's like, I don't know what that is. So we're like watching YouTube videos. So anyway, they emailed the track coach. I have, I think, 5 girls go out last weekend, Friday and Saturday, do long jump, high jump, 100-meter dash, javelin. And I went and I took photos for them. The school was like, if you're going, can you take photos? We don't have any photos of track. So like my girls have never done track, right? And they're like, let's just help out this other team. And this is fun. We're not done competing. And it was so funny. Like, and they loved it. And they didn't do too bad. And they actually like want to stick it out through the season. And I was like, you commit, you got to really commit. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. We don't like outdoor sports though. We're not going to do this next year. It's like, okay, awesome. So the track coach are super grateful, but like, just that's the kind of kids I have. They're just like, okay, sure. How can we help? Like, whatever.
That's amazing. I love that so much.
Yeah.
And it speaks to like the coaches that at Mars Hill too. You guys are like tight knit and like talk to each other and these resources and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I mean, at small schools, what you got to do, like, we're going to sit and complain and they're going to sit and figure it out. Right. Because you don't have as many resources as you do at larger schools and budgets and everything. It's pretty similar for all of us. So figuring those things out. And then culture wise, a small school, you gotta kind of, you need people to lean on. We don't have a staff. Most of us
what you make it.
Yeah, most of us don't have a staff. So I've made like incredible friends with other cross coaches, and they're also, female coaches. So, we have a lot of conversations about starting female teams, right? Yep. And then the women's lacrosse coach, she's built like multiple programs at different schools, like so many. So I'm like, hey, my first week here, I was like, hey, can you take me on a tour around campus? I want to listen to your spiel.
Yeah.
And they've become some of my closest friends and mentors as well. So, and that happened quick. So this is a pretty special place.
Man, that's awesome. So I want to ask you one question.
Okay.
So when you came from Oregon and you started to like coach like Division II programs and stuff, what was your mindset when you saw the resource difference and like the facilities difference?
Yeah, I was like, what do you mean I can't give a full scholarship?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, And I was like, well, wait, how much does school cost? And they're like, oh, about $40,000. And I was like, so my best athlete is still paying $20,000. And I was super confused. And I was like, wait, how much did Oregon cost? Because my parents paid the difference, right? And I didn't have a full scholarship at Oregon until my junior year. So I was like, my parents are just paying. They were just paying. And that was an adjustment. And it was like, okay, I need these crash mats and I need this and need this. And they're like, that's not part of the startup budget. I was like, what do you mean? It's not part of so that took me a second. Because when I'm in the interview process and I'm learning what the budget is and what we can get and what we can't get, whatever, I'm just so like cupcake phase of like, oh my God, I'm going to be a coach. I don't care. Yeah. I'll do anything. I'll take anything. Right. And then when I get into it, I'm having to order things and gear and stuff like that. And the girls are asking for things that I can't provide for them. I was like, wow, I didn't even realize at Oregon, like how blessed we were. Like, we would just like get new shoes sometimes. Like, we would just like come to the locker room and just like we'd have new shoes, and we were like, awesome, right? And we didn't really care. We were like, thanks, Uncle Phil. And we'd say like Phil Knight, like give us this. Christmas came early from Nike, whatever. I would love to do that for my girls. I would love to do it, Deanie. I would love to do it here, and you can't. Like you can't do those things. And if they knew how much I think they deserve, like I think they would be like, oh my gosh, yeah. You can't. Yeah, it's hard. And scholarships is a big one. And getting athletes to come here. And it's like, how do you get athletes to go anywhere? Yeah. And then you're asked, and it's about, I don't know, selling them on your program and your culture. Yeah. And they're going to go to college anyway. So make it somewhere that they want to be for 4 years. And money's a thing. And you got to deal with that. And I'm very transparent with them. I'll tell them, hey, I can't match that. I can't get you there. Or, hey, I can up this. And I'm telling you that, now. And I'll never lie to them about it. So it's expensive. It really, and I didn't realize it until I was put in it and I was having to ask people to pay it. And they're like, are you kidding? We just have like $5,000 more. And I'm like, at the end of the day, what's $5,000 to a college? You would think nothing. It's a lot. So, it was a shock for sure, but we figured out, and it's about, I'm being upfront, right? Like if the girls ask for something, I'm like, okay, let's fundraise.
Yeah.
Right. Let's fundraise for that. I didn't have to fundraise at Oregon. Never did that.
Yeah.
So we do online fundraising. And our parents are amazing. Our parents are so supportive of the program and they want the girls to have the things. So, they've donated and they've done all that stuff and their families. And then we just have some families in town who just support the girls. They're like, hey, can we have the team over for dinner, right? Things like that are really awesome. So it's a different small town stuff that you get at a smaller school that you're not going to get at a larger school. And the connections are going to be different and more meaningful for sure. But yeah, resources are tough.
No, absolutely. And that's what I think that's super important, because I think for the culture of fundraising, because you just always got to be in that mode, always been just like recruiting, you got to always be in that mode. Always. So like, I tell people, they talk about like ask me about coaching and stuff. I'm like, yo, coaching's a grind, especially if you don't got a staff. Like you got season, but then out of season and recruiting season, man, it's a grind.
I saw this tweet one time that was like, if you ever want to hire a coach, you should hire a D2 coach.
Yep.
And, right. And it was like, why? Like, they're explaining why. They're like, well, do you know how many hats they wear? Like, you're the academic advisor sometimes, you're the tutor sometimes. You plan the meals, you plan the travel. For our sport, we got to plan officials travel and plan out paying the officials, right? Like, it doesn't come from my personal bank account, but like most conferences, most sports, you just pay the conference and they organize nope, we do it. We got to buy flights. We got to buy cars, other things on top of the travel logistics. And then, hey, also by the end of the day, you got to also coach your team. You got to coach them. And then you got to, if they want to talk to you to practice, you got to be there for that. And make sure they get to the dining hall on time if they don't provide their meal, right? So it's like, yeah, hire me. If you just give me like 2 less jobs, I will like soar.
Yeah. And that's real.
Yeah. And I think, I remember at Deanie Mel, Brian's wife, she was volunteering. She was amazing. And she's funny. I always say this, I'm very big picture, like with coaching. And Mel was very details. And so there were like things like there was a girl who wasn't hitting a skill for like 2 years. I was like, how can you still not do this skill? And Mel came in and fixed one little thing. I think it was where her eyes were looking at something and it stayed up. And I was like, what? Right? Like details, things like that, where I'm like, just squeeze your body. And she's like, where are you looking? Right. And so I need people like that. That's what I need in an assistant coach. And Mel was amazing. And that was just volunteer. So, but she would always be like, how can I help you? What else can I do? I'm like, no, I'm good. And I'm carrying like 12 grocery bags full of breakfast food to like somewhere. And she's like, Shelby, let me help you. Like, I'm a mother, like blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know how to share responsibility. I don't know. And I always say to my girls, I'm like, I know that if I do it, it's going to get done. And I know that if I do it and it's wrong, I don't have anyone to blame. It's me. Right. And if it's right, it was on me. So, I have like let go of that mindset because next year I will be able to have an assistant and a grad assistant. I've had some people who have contacted me about it already.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to write down all the things I'm going to let them do. And then all the things that I would prefer to do. I really just need another set of eyes on the mat. Everything else I'm used to doing. So figuring out how to share that responsibility is going to be a task for sure.
No, but you're up to it. Like I said, because I feel like after doing all this stuff, you slowly get deeper in each task. You get deeper, so you do it better. All right, well, we got to get breakfast food on for a thing on Saturday. We leave at 6 a.m. All right, cool. I'm gonna go at 5, right at 5, be back by 6. I can actually put everything in, and you're just like you're more prepared for everything. So I know you're gonna do well at it.
Yeah. I might sleep a little more.
You said what?
I might sleep a little more too.
You might sleep a little more.
Right.
And like to that, like I think managing a staff too is another skill. When you start like getting a whole bunch of volunteers, a whole bunch of grad assistants, because you will, start. So like it'll come. That's amazing. I'm happy for you.
And I think too, what I want to keep remembering is bringing on a staff. If it's grad assistants, if it's girls coming out of college wanting to get into coaching, they're my assistant. Their success in that is not about our team running smoothly. It's about them learning what it takes to make it run smoothly, right? It's not about our wins or losses and, their names aren't on any of it. It's about them learning how to recruit, learning how to run a program because they're going to be head coaches one day. And the way our sports growing, they're probably going to be building a program. They're not going to be walking into one most of the time. So knowing that like they're just as much mentees, as my athletes are, right? And if I can sharing the task, if I keep thinking, they need responsibilities because they're never going to learn if you don't give it to them. That's going to be important for me to keep in mind.
No, absolutely. I agree. I think helping them learn the skills of being a head coach and the business of being a head coach is like super important.
Yeah,
I
right.
remember my first head coach, he let me do the renewals for scholarships of 1 year. I was like, man, like y'all getting all this, and I was just like doing the renewals, and I was just like, I was so grateful to be able to like learn that because I didn't know you had to do this.
You want to do mine? Because I have to sit down and do this.
Oh gosh, no. I'll be
I'm gonna
crying.
do that. Yeah, and I will say too, this year I in the fall I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do individual meetings weekly.
Mm,
Every week they're gonna come in for 30 minutes and we're just gonna chat. And it was nice the first few weeks, and it was like because I was still getting to know them too. So I was like, how's the dining hall? Are you missing home? You know, talking about everything kind of off the mat, just like how are you, right? And it was really, really helpful, and I loved it. And I was like, I feel so connected to them. I built these
yeah,
great relationships. And I still love my girls, and I would do it again, right? But it got to a point where I was holding so much of their like emotional, I don't want to say trauma, but like their feelings and emotions in my brain and
yeah,
in my heart, right? Because they would sit and they would cry, right? And they would because I opened the door for that, and I want to continue to do that forever. It was so important, and it changed me so much too. But it got to a point where I was going home and I was just like drained.
yeah,
Like nobody called me, nobody talked to me, no mom, I'm not answering your calls, right? And I gave my so much of myself to them for like 2 months. That I would come home and I didn't have anything.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
only have dogs at home, right? So like my dogs are like, why aren't we going on for a run? And I'm like, I can't do anything.
yeah.
Um, and so then we moved it to every other week, which was really, really awesome. And so we're going to continue doing that, you know, coming up this next week because it's important. But I was like, I'm sorry, I have to give myself a break in between all of this to focus on my own emotions.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they loved it, right? You know, they felt really cared for, and they were, and it brought me closer to them in a lot of ways, and just learning more about them, and then how I can navigate their problems on campus that they might be having that we can combat. So it was cool. Yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely important.
yeah,
So Shelby, there's a lot of people listening who's going to be building something, right? Whether it's a team, whether it's like their team at work, or it could be coaching, right? So what's one thing you could give someone that'll help them like build better culture with their team?
um, I love them. That's it. You know, in the recruiting process, and when you get to know them, when you talk to them, if you don't love to your core what you do, they will see it. You can't. You will be like it'll be so clear to
Yeah,
a recruit. And when I came to Marcel, I was like, I love my job again. Like I started to get burnt out, you know, and it was administration, it was different things, right? But when I came here, it was like in my energy in the visits, like recruits saw that, right? And my athletes still see that. And I think that they do, they say it, you know, they see my love and passion for the sport and for them. And if you build a situation where they know you love them, like truly love them, it's so much easier.
yep,
It's because they will fight for your program, right? So now we have recruits on campus, and I've got 5 or 6 girls lined up to meet her, and talk about the school and talk about even if they hate the dining hall. Like my girls hate the dining hall, right?
yeah,
And if they could leave this school, they would do it strictly for the dining hall. That's
yeah,
it. And everything else, right, is cush. Everything else, they like. They love me, they love the team, you know, all this stuff, but they hate the food.
yeah,
And like at any small school, but they will still come to recruits and be like, "This is an amazing place. I hate the food. This is an amazing place."
yeah.
And having those people who do love it here, and for all these different reasons, but that I've created a space where they're like, I couldn't picture myself anywhere else. And then you have girls who are like, if you leave, I'm leaving. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm not leaving. I have no plans to leave, you know, but when you have them say that, it's like, that feels good, but please stay, because if I do leave, we need this program to continue, and you have a good foundation for it. But yeah, if you love them and you believe in them and you let them grow and learn, and you let them teach you, and you let them let you be wrong, right? Like sometimes they
Yep.
will tell me things and I'll be like, a coach with an ego would be like, well, you know, but I'm like, you know what? Good idea. You're right. Let's try it. You know, and they're freshmen. They're really smart. They're really smart, and savvy too. So if you let them be who they want to be and you just love them, recruiting's easy, because they're gonna help you recruit. You know, recruits are gonna see that in practices, and they're gonna see that in meets, and other teams are gonna see that and want to be a part of whatever that culture is.
No, absolutely love them, love them. And last question: how do you stay in shape? You be running like miles on Instagram. I'm like, oh my,
Yeah,
with your dogs? I got my dog.
yeah, I run with my dog sometimes. I don't do it too much anymore just because 6 miles is hard with dogs that want to sniff the ground the whole time.
Yeah.
3 to 4 I'll do with them. I actually ran my 6 miles this morning.
Sheesh.
Yeah, I just didn't. Yeah, I always ran. I'm not a
Yeah.
runner though. I'm not built like a runner. I'm built like a sprinter, really, if we want to
Yeah.
talk about that. But I just start running 6 miles. It's like free therapy. So I don't like I
Oh
don't want
my
to go to therapy,
God.
right? So I'm like, I'm gonna go for a run and I'm actually gonna listen to like Brene Brown and Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach podcast like the whole time. And that's my therapy. So
Wow.
yeah, running. I do lift a little bit. We do staff lifts sometimes. I haven't done it during the season, but we do staff lifts with our strength conditioning coach, and and then stress. From being a head coach, that keeps you in shape.
It does. No, 100%.
Yeah.
No, Shelby. Well, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast. It means the world to me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I had fun.
Hey, no doubt. And I'll talk to you, Shelby.
Okay.
Wow, what a phenomenal episode with head coach Shelby Armstrong. We talked about culture. We talked about her background, how she just developed programs, how she loves her athletes, and how it pays off dividends into her new school. So I appreciate everyone for listening. I'll put all the information that I referenced in the podcast in the show notes, and thank you for listening for the Masters Podcast.